Trump administration says it did not break any laws after carrying out an airstrike on a boat 3 months ago today. The strike was notable, though, because it was multiple shots that were fired by the military, killing 2 people who appeared to have survived the first strike. And now Democrats say they need to know if war crimes were committed.
The question in front of us, and I believe there will be bipartisan investigations in both the House and in the Senate, in order to determine whether war crimes were committed and either U.S. law or international law or both were violated.
The White House is denying that any international law was broken. They are also saying that Secretary Hegseth did not give that second order to kill those people that had survived that strike. Instead, it was an admiral who carried out that attack. We'll be interested to see if Secretary Hegseth has anything to say with it. Bill, as you know, he's usually seated right next to the president.
Right. So the New York Times has been running with this story saying that Pete Hegseth ordered a second strike, prompting the Democrats to run with the narrative saying, well, the Trump administration carried out something illegal, and they're hinting towards the fact that they may have committed war crimes. Now, we're going to talk about that in a bit, but we have a rebuttal coming from the Washington Post lied. I got that all mixed up. The Washington Post lied, saying that Pete Hegseth ordered a second strike when he wasn't even in the room when the second strike took place. And then the New York Times clears the narrative saying, look, this is exactly what happened. Washington Post quote says, officials ordered a second strike to eliminate survivors on the vessel, raising concerns about violations of the law of war. So the Washington Post is acknowledging that there is a war on fentanyl coming into the United States, killing American citizens. The Democrats, on the other hand, are doing the job of Venezuela, asking the world or asking Congress to look into the fact that the Trump administration may have committed war crimes. So let me get this straight. The Democrats, who are supposed to be on the side of the American people, they should be on the side of protecting the American people from fentanyl, are on the side of the Venezuelans who are pumping fentanyl into the country, killing American citizens. Do you get that? So the Times already has published their article and saying that they found no evidence that Hegseth or Bradley ordered the killing of survivors. That is the New York Times. And that debunked the claims of the Washington Post. Now we're going to watch this footage from today's cabinet meeting, and we find Pete Hegseth explaining what took place and clearing the air, but also saying that they have the back of the admiral who made the call to make the second strike.
As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back, and the American people are safer because narco-terrorists know you can't bring drugs through the water and eventually on land if necessary to the American people. We will eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded in fire or smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. When you're in the middle of a battle scenario like this, things happen and you have to make spot decisions. And of course, the Democrats are setting up the military to begin to second guess every decision that they make. The admiral had the command of the situation since the Secretary of War wasn't on communications or in communications with them because he had left the room. And so he had to make the call to ensure that the second strike was made to ensure that the threat was eliminated. He made the second call. This is what being on Team America looks like, in my opinion. Let me know in the chat what you think. But I think if you're on the side of the American people, you should be more concerned that the military is keeping the American people safe, not worrying that the people who were bringing death to your shores were okay. And that's what the Democrats are doing.
You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you nitpick and you plant fake stories in the Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources not based in anything, not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes, about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this topic because of what politicians and the press does to warfighters. President Trump has empowered commanders to do what is necessary, which is dark and difficult things in the dead of night on behalf of the American people. We support them, and we will stop the poisoning of the American people.
And again, the members of the press, being the mouthpiece of the Democrat Party, is a sad thing because they're supposed to simply tell the truth, find the facts, tell the truth. But when you have outlets like the Washington Post doing the dirty work for the Democrat Party, trying to tell the American people that we did research, we have anonymous sources that tell us that the Trump administration committed war crimes. Now, remember, this ties to the videos that were released by the Seditious Six. I want you to always keep that in mind. I said that in the days to come, we're going to start having stories that are connected to that video, that something illegal may or may not have happened. You're going to be hearing things that are akin to the Trump administration has engaged in something illegal orders. We're going to hear it, and look, they did not disappoint.
Mr. Secretary, on the second strike, you said it happened more than an hour after the first. Did I hear it correctly?
I couldn't tell you the exact amount of time.
Minutes or you went off the room, is what you're saying.
I already stated my answer quite clearly.
So remember this, we lost last year, I think it was more than that, but people don't like saying it because they always said 100,000, 115,000, numbers we've been hearing for years. So we lost last year more than 200,000 people, dead people, ruined families beyond the 200,000. And those 200,000, that family will never be the same. But these people have killed over 200,000 people, actually killed over 200,000 people last year. And those numbers are down.
So Hakeem Jeffries is more interested in protecting the rights of narco-terrorists who have killed over 200,000 Americans. That he's more interested in that. The Washington Post is more interested in nitpicking to figure out a way to stick the Trump administration with accusations of war crimes while they are in the process of protecting the American people. Okay? I'm breaking out the E word again this evening. These people are evil. They are downright evil. Yes, I keep saying that we should look at this like we look at professional wrestling. It's all an act for some of them. But guys, when are we simply going to call it out for what it really is? Okay, fine. There's a point where it goes from they're simply acting the part, calling Trump names in order to get votes. But when they begin to whittle down at the resolve of the American military to second guess orders that they receive from the chain of command, be afraid. Hakeem Jeffries has gone on air to say that there's a 5-year statute of limitations. Anyone who carries out orders under this president should be expecting us to press charges, to investigate them. That 5 years, far exceeds the Trump Trump term that they're coming for them. They're trying to chill. They're trying to make the military and the cabinet members afraid that they might be doing something wrong, and the Democrats will come after them. And you know what? They know the Democrats will do it because they've done it before. So we're not playing games with them. Like this is outrageous. All right. Now, like we already said, Washington Post ran with war crimes have been committed because it fits the election narrative. The Democrats are trying to pile on in order to, win the midterms next year. So they are beginning to poison the well and lay out a narrative that's going to be on repeat during the midterms. War crimes, illegal orders, fascists, and all that. But thank God that the New York Times did their job, all right, and they put the facts out there. And I hope that it takes, because people listen to TDSBC, CNN, and they just make up their minds based on the narratives that those outlets are pushing. Now, if you accuse someone of war crimes, you better have proof. And Washington Post only had politics. They said they had anonymous sources, no proof. All right. Now, if you think that this was bad, wait until you see the expert analysis CNN tried to pass off as military insight. All right. Now, in the chat, all right, should Hegseth sue the Washington Post for defamation? Yes or no? All right. Now, I'm going to be looking at the chat. Oh, yeah. All right, I'm going to look, guys, I can't resist. Whenever I see you guys in the chat, I can't resist. So jump into the chat and let me know that you're there. Intergalactic Wrangler, thank you for being here. I can stay a little while, lots to do tomorrow. Okay, not a problem, not a problem. Not a problem. It's good to see you. All right, so let me know what you think in the chat. Should Pete Hegseth sue? Should he sue the Washington Post for defamation? Yes or no? I think he should sue. I think he should sue. All right. Now, before I jump into the CNN story, which is like everything is going to be about the insanity that the Democrats have been trying to force down our throats. Intergalactic Wrangler says, Trump had a bit of a sleepy day. He needs a nap. Trump said, if you bring in drugs, he will kill you. Man of his word. The admirals, hang on. The admirals, what's his favorite made the order. I think you're saying that the admiral, who was a favorite of Trump, I think that's what you're trying to say, made the order, not Hegseth. Double tap necessary. Guys, this is war. This is war. The Democrats, the only way that the Democrats will win an election at this rate is by cheating, because they've exposed themselves as essentially hating the American people. They hate the American people. Now, let's look at what CNN had to say. You know, they're giving their expert advice to the Trump administration. All right. There's this lady, Margaret Donovan, trying to sell to us that the Trump administration did something wrong.
I'll tell you, terrorists don't travel 11 to a boat, you know, in a speedboat leaving the coast of Venezuela.
So you think Trump is just drone striking boats in the Caribbean?
I am saying that
like
I have been to Iraq, I've been to Syria, I have done airstrikes against terrorists, and this is not what we're dealing with here. That is.
This woman is, you're going to hear this word again and again. She's evil. All right. Patricia. All right, Patricia, thanks for joining. Okay, so I have a special today. We tried this out, and we're going to do this early on. I'm going to leave the call-in link. Okay, this is a call-in link. I've posted it in the chat. Patricia, I am a fan. Patricia left some amazing comments in the chat over the last couple of live streams. And I'm impressed with the things that she's taught me in the chat. So Patricia, I'm glad that you're on the chat, or you're in the chat. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for the comments you made. I know I've responded and told you how happy I am to see your comments and to read them, because they're very well thought out, and they inform. They've taught me a lot. And Patricia is also a veteran. Okay, so thanks for hanging out. Now, we tested the call-in feature, and the call-in feature allows us to have you use the link to call in and to give your thoughts on the story. You can chat if you want, but if you feel like calling in to kind of give some background on some of the things being said, and you know what, Patricia, you don't have to. But with what this lady is saying, like, these people come up with their credentials. I flew missions in Iraq. I flew missions in Afghanistan. And They try to make it sound like they know what they're talking about, and then they open their mouths and say the most outlandish things, like this, that what they were dealing with stopping narco-terrorists from bringing poison into the United States isn't the same thing as dealing with terrorists. So I honestly, like today, I'm really upset because all of this is happening in quick succession with the videos that those 6 congressmen, I'm trying to be very, very kind in my description of them. Those 6 congressmen did to sow doubt in the hearts of the servicemen or active military servicemen in the chain of command, trying to sow doubt in the chain of command. And then we saw the killing of Sarah Berkshaw, and we have her partner who was also shot in critical condition. And they wouldn't even miss a beat. They jumped out to blame Trump, and then they begin to say that, look, it is insane. It is insane. I don't know, like, I hope I can hold it together for this live stream, because whenever we run into stupidity like this, you know, okay, so we should have a physical reaction whenever we run into stupidity, because this is stupidity on steroids. You're actively running cover for narco-terrorists who are killing your own people. All right, so Patricia says, I am enjoying your streams. Wow, that is high praise, Patricia. Thank you so much. And thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Let's see. Intergalactic Wrangler says, 20 kills, 7 deaths, 2 assists in Call of Duty Ghost. I guess maybe that's what she means, that she was playing a video game and she ran missions in the video game, not in real life. Okay, so yeah. All right, so let's read. Patricia says they are not using actual videos of the incident they're talking about. That video has not been released. Yeah, it hasn't. They, you know, I am amazed at what these Americans are doing. Okay, so let's keep watching what CNN is trying to do with this story.
That is my opinion, that we are talking about drug mules. When you look at how drug trafficking works, right? Let's take the September 2nd strike. This is a boat leaving the coast of Venezuela with 11 people on it. That is like drug trafficking 101. You're going to pay the least amount of people and use the most amount of space for drug trafficking, right? You don't want to have to pay 11 people, and you're going to send people who are expendable, by the way. You're not sending your kingpins to traffic drugs.
So it's only terrorism if you, like, exceed a number of humans on the boat? Is that the argument?
I'm saying that
she's saying it's drugs, not terror.
Right, so this is crazy. This so-called expert is saying if you see a certain number of people in the boat, then clearly these are not narco-terrorists. On boats with 4 engines, okay? And guys, the United States has the most sophisticated intelligence setup in the world. They have the CIA and a lot of connections, and they would have known what was on those boats. Patricia says, they did this against the military during Vietnam. You were not allowed to wear your uniform in public because of them portraying the military as baby killers. Do you know, when I was a kid, I watched First Blood. I was too tied up in the action, but I was confused as to why the town didn't like John Rambo, why they hated him and why they weren't gone. And eventually, when I discovered that there was this movement to make what the military was doing in Vietnam appear to be evil, when they were, you know, basically following orders. And every time they portrayed the military, they portrayed them as mean, you know, people who abused women. It was crazy and it's disgraceful. And Hollywood is complicit too. All right. I remember that. Patricia says they are trying to repeat the history that worked for them during Vietnam that sparked riots in America. They are desperate to destabilize the second Trump administration. And if anyone out there is trying to say, well, that's not what they're trying to do, Trump actually has done some horrific things, I don't agree. This is too well organized. All right. And remember, I told you that the website that was put up to urge servicemen to log onto the website and learn how they can use encrypted tools to communicate with them, to learn how to learn about illegal orders that are given and what to do, and to put them in touch with lawyers. That website the address of the website was bought in August. This plan has been in the works for over 3 months. This didn't start with the videos that was just released. It has been in the works. So there's a conspiracy afoot. All right. Now, does anyone believe that terrorists travel 11 to a boat like a Venezuelan cruise line? The lady is just trying to make it look like, the Trump administration has carried out war crimes and it's despicable, and, they should be prosecuted. This is evil. It's just wicked. It's evil. The Democrat Party essentially neutered the military under the Biden administration. They made them wussies. They made them wussies. It was more like the politically correct American military. It was amazing to watch how stupid the Biden administration was. But you know what? They were in office. No one was making videos claiming that they were destroying America and that the military should disobey orders. No one did that. If the Republicans had done that, we know what would have happened. Okay. Patricia says the satellites can show you what size a wrench is laying at someone's feet. Exactly. Exactly. I've said this before during the live stream, and I'll say it again. Time is our friend. But like Patricia has said in her comment, the Democrats aren't afraid of being caught lying. They are depending on the fact that the lies will cause so much damage that by the time you find out that they're lying and you're trying to correct, the damage has already been done. It's all about inflicting as much damage as possible. And when I read that in your comment, Patricia, it just opened my eyes. I was like, that's exactly what's going on, because they don't care. Like, it is blatantly obvious that they don't care that they are being caught lying. They don't care anymore. Now the caller, the caller tool is available. So at some point we're going to just have a, you guys click the link, join, and then we can just talk about this. Let's go through the rest of these videos. Okay, so so right now we have a situation where you have both terrorists and drug traffickers in the mix. And for anyone trying to pretend like these two aren't one and the same in this situation, all right, is insane, and it's a dangerous game, because you're essentially allowing poison, a weapon of mass destruction is being shipped into your country. A bit of fingernail of pure fentanyl is enough to kill a horse. All right. So that is a weapon. That's a WMD if I ever saw one. All right. So anyone that's trying to make this about, the rights of these people, I don't think it is. I don't think it is a good thing. Okay. Defending American people should be respected and honored, and anyone that attempts to attack the military when they are doing it, okay, is not to be respected in my eyes. Now, CNN still has more to say, because they're not done embarrassing themselves, because the next thing they do is they try to claim that Pete Hegseth is guilty without any evidence.
There
Let's
is
watch.
this dispute about who gave the order. First of all, what do you make of the fact that tonight they seem to be pointing the finger pretty directly at this admiral and naming him, both at the White House podium and Pete Hegseth in this tweet in his defense, but really saying that he's responsible for this?
Yeah, I think that that is a great indication of an administration who knows that something has gone terribly wrong here. I think that people are finally recognizing, and that's why you see we did that intro with all of these different leaders and lawmakers saying that this is a stone cold war crime. This is so basic to everybody who has served in the military and who has trained on the law of war and the law of armed conflict, that it is a war crime, that it's no surprise that the administration will be trying to shift the blame. I think that the choice to sort of pin this on Admiral Bradley is an interesting one, but not unexpected, because Secretary Hegseth is not somebody who has exactly leadership qualities, right? He's actually largely unqualified to be in that position. And so, of course, his natural instinct would likely be to say, something's gone wrong, let me find somebody to blame this on. Now, that's not to absolve Admiral Bradley of anything. If the facts really have played out the way that it is being reported, he absolutely had a duty not to follow an unlawful order if it was Secretary Hegseth's order.
All right, so I haven't served in the American military, but I am seething right now. I'm seething. Like these people. Okay, so Patricia, I'm sure you're in touch with other members of the military or veterans, okay, who were either in NAM with you or who have served after that. What is the general sense among the veterans? Because I haven't served in the military, but I know that loyalty to the flag, loyalty to the chain of command and to the commander-in-chief is sacrosanct. This is insane and this is stupid, and I'm really getting upset. All right, so let's jump into the chat. Intergalactic Wrangler says, they always run each other's name in the dirt. We'll try to, okay. Okay. Greetings, Canary Kin. Thanks for joining the show. Patricia says, this is dangerous for every military member. If you refuse to follow orders, you will be put in the brig, court-martialed, and can even serve time in a federal prison. The Democrats don't care. Once Pete Hegseth or the military goes through this process against anyone who refuses to follow orders, the Democrats are going to jump out there to say, oh, look here, the fascist Trump is stopping freedom of speech in the military. Like the military doesn't follow the same rules as civilians, but the Democrats don't want you to know that. They want you to think that everyone is the same. Everyone is the same. So freedom of speech in the military is the same as freedom of speech out there. It is not the same. The chain of command is the law in the military. Okay, I hope I'm not overstating it, but I think that's the way it is. Patricia again says that Democrats could care less about the people they have gotten arrested in protest. They will not care how many military members end up in the same situation. Democrats essentially hate patriots. Let's just call it. They hate patriots. Anyone who respects the flag, they hate. You remember those ICE protests where they were burning the flag? You remember those protests where people were waving Mexican flags way up high, but chose to burn the flag? Okay, that's the Democrat Party. Essentially, they are the party that hates America. Yeah, they do. They do. We played a video earlier of Hakeem Jeffries claiming that there were war crimes committed against Venezuela. Which team are you guys on? Are you on Team America, or are you running interference for another country like Ilhan Omar, my favorite congressperson, who says repeatedly that her job in Congress is to represent the interests of a different country? And I keep asking this question every time I run into the Ilhan Omar situation. What are you guys doing? How can someone who blatantly hates the country be in Congress. It's crazy. I know. Let's see. Patricia says 100,000 Americans died from fentanyl poisoning. Oh, Trump says it's about 200,000 last year alone. Trump said it on the feed. 200,000 died last year alone. So it's double the numbers that you're giving. So 80 of the people who bring it here dying is not paying the debt for the deaths they cause. Democrats hate America. I'm sorry. It's just plain as day. It's plain as day. Not a word about the lives that are lost. Not one word, not a tear for the lives that have been devastated by fentanyl. Not a tear shed. They're so obsessed with bringing down Trump. Patricia says, okay, that's about 100,000 a year at the low end, talking about the casualties. And Patricia, who is a veteran, says you are spot on about the chain of command. You know, I totally. It's hard, but you know what? Bringing the truth out and discussing it and actually processing through what we're seeing, it's hard for me to understand why this is happening. Like, why do you want the country destroyed? Okay, that's the question. Okay, now, one of the things that I'm noticing is that there's a complete sidestepping of facts. No one is talking about the facts. They're talking about the narrative, what they want the American people to perceive about the situation. You can see on CNN, even after Pete Hegseth had explained he wasn't the one who issued the order, but here's what happened. The admiral, who was the one in the field, felt that a second strike was necessary. They said he was throwing someone else under the bus. These guys are just disgusting. They're disgusting. I don't know what else to say about that. I'm going to try and keep it clean, but how I feel is way worse than what I'm saying. Okay, so their expert analysis essentially is just bogus. All right, it's totally bogus. Now, remember Mark Kelly, the hero who stood up to release a stupid video trying to use their credentials as veterans and former members of the intelligence agency, that guy. All right. Here's where his hypocrisy becomes very hard to ignore. Okay. Now, this video, I'm sure some of you have seen it, but I'm sure a lot of people haven't seen it. Here's Mark Kelly grilling one of Obama's generals about the drone strikes where women and children were killed.
Okay, well, thank you. And I know you can't go into much detail about the analysis that led to the August 28th drone strike in Kabul in this open setting, but I would like to note my serious concerns and give you the opportunity to make any comment on how the American people can know that the military will be able to adequately assess targets before conducting future strikes and operations, even as we have even fewer local intelligence and surveillance resources to leverage.
Senator, again, the matter's under investigation, but what I can tell you broadly, and to restate some things I've said earlier, I am responsible for that. It happened in my area of responsibility, so I'm the responsible officer for that strike. Moreover, I was under no pressure, and no one in my chain of command below me was under any pressure to take that strike. We acted based on the intelligence read that we saw on the ground. We acted several times on intelligence that we saw, and we were successful in other occasions in preventing attacks. This time, tragically, we were wrong. And you're right to note that as we go forward and our ability to create what we call the ecosystem that allows you to see what's going on the ground and put all that together, it's going to get a lot harder to do that, particularly in places like Afghanistan. But I can share a little more with you later.
Well, thank you, General.
Thank you, Senator.
Oh, really? Thank you, General. Where's the outrage? Where's the you guys committed war crimes? Democrats are, oh my goodness, guys. I said evil is making a comeback, and they are just evil. They are just evil. Look at how they glaze over drone strikes that killed women and children. Not narco terrorists bringing fentanyl into the country to kill hundreds of thousands of Americans. No, women and children were droned under the Biden administration. I know I said Obama, but I think he was an Obama. He was a general under the Obama administration as well. These guys are just crazy. And Mark Kelly is like, well, thank you. You know, women and children were droned. Where is the outrage? Where is the, call for investigations? Where is the, you killed women and children? Where's the accountability? They are disgusting. They are. They are. Let's see. Patricia says the only court that hears war crimes is The Hague. So Hakeem Jeffries wants to send Pete Hegseth, and if he had his way, President Trump, to The Hague to answer for war crimes. Oh, geez. Patricia says, it seems the Democrats have been corrupted by communism. I agree. I've been calling it for a while that the Democrat Party is now the Communist Party of America. They are. There's a chart that I showed weeks ago where there's a comparison between the policies of the Nazi Party and the policies of the Democrat Party. And you know what? They're one for one. They are exactly one for one. They agree on most things. It's crazy. They have been corrupted by communism. Again, Patricia says, the New World Order wants control. The only type of government that could control every person on earth is communism, and they do it with complete terror. Yeah. And the super flu, I want to, duck under the algorithm, was used as a test run, in my opinion. In my opinion, they used that to exhibit absolute control. You have to wear a mask everywhere. Crazy. Intergalactic Wrangler says CNN is disgusting. Vomit emoji. I had to add that. I usually don't call out emojis, but this time it is poignant. Yes, they are disgusting. Okay. Patricia says Obama tucked tail and pulled military out of Iraq, allowing ISIS to form a stronghold. Do you think he tucked tail, or do you think he just gave Iraq over to ISIS? I suspect he gave Iraq to ISIS. You don't tuck tail when you are the United States of America. You don't. You are the most powerful military on the planet. You don't do that. I think they basically gifted Iraq to ISIS. You got it, The Hague. Okay. Intergalactic Angler says, at minimal, they are socialists. Not much difference. And then Patricia says, the Nazis were the first communists. True. True. Socialists and communists are the same. When communists took over Russia, they renamed it the Soviet Socialist Republic. Yeah. That's where the USSR comes from, if you guys don't know. I'm talking to the audience now. History has to make a comeback. Like, there has to be a comeback of people knowing history, what happened. I like the fact that we were able to touch on how journalists and the press and Hollywood depicted the veterans and the soldiers who fought in the Vietnam War as baby killers. It's good that we're being reminded that this has always happened. It's always happened. just like the Democrats calling Republicans Nazis and racists and calling a Republican elected president illegitimate. They've been doing it for years. Trump wasn't the first one. They've just gotten away with it. Okay, so now we have to keep reminding people, look, these people have continued doing the same thing for decades without any consequences. We just have to keep reminding people. And Patricia says, he gave Iraq to ISIS on purpose. Yes. It wasn't an accident, guys. It wasn't an accident. And you know, I am not Alex Jones. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. And I am not fantastic at math, but at least I can add, I can add. So if 1 + 1 is 2, then the answer is 2. If the greatest military on the planet couldn't eliminate a ragtag band of militants, they were gifted Iraq. And you know what? And in Trump's first administration, his first term, you heard the story of how he had to fly without informing anyone and had a meeting with General Raising Cane, and he asked how long will it take to erase ICE, and the general says, just give us 2 weeks. If you give us everything we need, they're gone in 2 weeks. This is what Obama said couldn't be done. So let me know in the chat, why do you think people, intelligent people, and I don't want us to make it sound like the people who vote Democrat are evil or anything, but why is it that intelligent people vote Democrat in spite of all of the evidence that we have that they make horrible decisions that are not great for the United States? Okay. Let me know in the chat, please, because I'm confused. Because you can't see everything. I had a call with one of my siblings. He lives in New York. And he made a statement and says, he says, 2 people can see the same evidence, but based on the same evidence, one person chooses to be Republican and the other person chooses to be a Democrat. We weren't talking about politics. We were talking about something connected to my mom's funeral. Something came up. I mentioned it the other day. And he just mentioned that, and inside of me, I smirked because we see it every day. We watch the news, we see all the facts being rolled out, and in the end, it appears like the people on the Democrat side seem to be immune to facts. They see the facts, but they still choose to hate Trump. It's almost like you hate Trump so much that you'll cut off your nose to spite your face. Okay, so back to the chat. Intergalactic Angler says, someone got paid before they talked tail for sure. If everything that happened with the Iraq situation got revealed, all right, guys, what do you think would happen in the United States? Not to the United States, but in the United States. Do you think people would essentially not vote for Democrats for a long time, or do you think they will just hold their nose to say, no, that's a conspiracy, that's a lie, those things aren't true, and they will continue voting Democrat? Some of the most destructive policies, at least in my lifetime, have been under Democrat presidents and administrations. So I'm wondering why anyone would still vote Democrat. And I've said many times that if I grew up in the United States, I could have grown up a Democrat. I could have lived in a Democrat household because, we had a favorable picture of Democrats growing up. Even in Nigeria, I could have been a Democrat. So me saying it is just being self-aware that I could have been Democrat. But if I had enough facts, I would still have switched over to become a Republican, or at least an independent who votes conservative. Patricia says, how do you think Obama went from a 6-figure income to becoming a multi-millionaire in 8 years? That is the question. Now, if you're watching in the chat and you're like, why are you guys wailing on Obama? He's my guy. Answer the question in the chat. How did he get that rich? If you can answer it, we'll consider and say, yeah, you're right. That makes sense. So say something that makes sense. Okay. And if you're responding in the comments section after the fact and you're trying to say how we're all closed-minded Republicans, bring the facts, please. Okay, just bring the facts. Patricia says, because they listen to, answering my question, how do people still vote for Democrats? Because they listen to what they're going to get for free. I agree. And that is one of the most destructive things I have seen in third world countries. Remember, I grew up in a third world country. I lived in a third world country for over 45 years. All right. I arrived in this country when I was about to turn 45, I think. And I have seen politicians offer up free things. They say, if you vote me in, you're going to get these things for free. That's the currency of third world countries. Short-term pleasure destroying the long-term goals of the country. And people who do that essentially don't want their country to be great. Intergalactic Wrangler says, I keep using your handle. Many people are brainwashed from misinformation. The truth is somewhere in the middle. That's true. And that's why I want those people who follow this channel to think for themselves. And speaking of following the channel, I forgot to make a call to action. Please, if you've watched the show, you like what you hear, you like the easygoing tone of this channel and the way I break down the commentary and engage the chat, please consider subscribing to the channel, like the video, share this video. But if you don't think that you want to subscribe, it's fine. Your eyeballs support enough. Thank you for staying and watching. So I've always said that we should learn how to think for ourselves. As much as I prefer the policies of the MAGA Republican, I would like to say that I believe personally that the MAGA Republican Party is different from the Republican Party. I agree with the policies of the MAGA Republican Party so far. And I would not be able to, in good conscience, vote for the policies of the Democrat Party. So that is my take. However, I like to think for myself. So even when things happen with the Trump administration that I don't like, if you watch enough of my videos, I will tell you the things I don't like. And yesterday, I mentioned some things about the Republicans in Congress and what I thought about the way they were operating. So I like to just call it out, but in good conscience, I would not vote Democrat because the policies that they push and the agenda that they have, you have more than one top Democrat supporting censorship, promoting the weaponization of the legal system. You have Hakeem Jeffries already threatening that in 5 years, the Democrats are going to bring charges against anyone who worked within the Trump administration. And they're like expecting to win the next presidential election. So these are the guys who want you to believe that they are the good guys. Nah, I don't think so. Patricia says, after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, a lot of people switched over to Republican. Yes, because the Democrat Party is made up of insane, hateful people and a bunch of undocumented criminal illegal immigrants and criminals, because they essentially seem to like to run cover and protect people who are in the country illegally and people who have committed crimes. They protect the crimes. They hide the statistics of violent crime in order to prevent the National Guard from coming in to clean up the city. Like, these guys have shown us who they are. All right. The killing of Charlie Kirk was a wake-up moment for a lot of people, where the brutal murder of a good man caught on camera was celebrated by every single person who votes Democrat. And there was not one top Democrat leadership or Democrat in leadership coming out to say, stop that, you guys are insane. Because do you know what? Those are their constituents. If they attack their constituents, in fact, these guys, these Democrats, I believe, are terrified of their constituents. They are. They're terrified of their constituents. You have this insane podcaster a few weeks back who essentially warned any Democrat who doesn't want to get on board with the violence against MAGA Republicans and put them on notice to say, if you continue to block us from doing what we're doing, attacking the MAGA Republicans, you're next. She's a podcaster. And if you guys want me to play the video, I will. That is the constituents of the Democrat Party now. So if anyone says that they're the good guys, I'm sorry. No, the mask fell off and was destroyed when Charlie Kirk was murdered, and a bunch of you, thousands of you actually, got online and celebrated his death, and we're still celebrating his death during the No Kings protest. There were a lot of people who were memeing the assassination. It's crazy. Thinking about it just gets my blood boiling. Patricia says, greed is the worst sin of all because it devalues human life for wealth. I agree. Patricia says, Congress has lost its way. They have forgotten that they are there to represent we, the people who own America. As far as Congress is concerned, the people exist to serve at their whims. How dare you call them out? You know, and how do I know that, or why do I believe that? Because they keep trying to take away your guns so that they can take away your speech. Remember, you know, my wife and I keep having these conversations around the Second Amendment, and she doesn't understand why the Second Amendment is so important. And I'm like, you need to, I try to explain it to her. She doesn't get it. The rest of the world doesn't get the power of the Second Amendment. It is to defend the people against a tyrannical government. It is. And the Democrats want to, first of all, take away your guns. During the live stream where I covered the genocide in Nigeria, I spoke of a question one of my Canadian friends asked, said, why is it that the Christians in Nigeria can't defend themselves? Don't they have guns? I said, no, they took our guns in the 70s. He looked at me and said, yeah. And then he asked me a question. He says, is there a way people outside the country can send them guns? I said, no, that's illegal. You can't even be seen with a gun. What would happen is if they caught you with a gun, law enforcement would open fire on you first, ask questions later. That's how bad it is. We have a situation where a farmer was attacked by one of these mass murderers. He was able to, in the throes of their conflict, disarm this guy. After being stabbed several times, he was bleeding out. He disarmed the guy who was attacking him, took his weapon, and slew the guy who was attacking him. Do you know what? That guy now is on death row. The government has put him on death row for defending himself. You're not even allowed to defend yourself. So personally, I am a raving fan of the Second Amendment. I've seen what it looks like when you can't defend yourself. Oh, sorry. I'm not sure if I finished reading this. Okay. The second part of this this chat from Patricia says, that is what most people in other countries do not understand. Yeah, and I just explained that even people, they don't understand why you need guns. And that's why you read of people from Europe asking, why do you guys need so many guns? And they're like, you guys don't get it. If you're still asking the question with what your government is doing to you, you don't understand. You don't understand. Patricia again, the president does not own America. Congress does not own America. The judicial system does not own America. American citizens own America. That is why we have a Second Amendment in the Bill of Rights. It's really that simple, guys. It's simple. Like I told you guys, you know, and I'm taking a course on the U.S. Constitution, and I you know, and just sitting and watching those, you know, the course, it sends chills down my spine. It's like this document essentially guarantees the freedom of every American citizen, guarantees that they will never be under the jackboot of a tyrannical government. People say that Trump is a fascist and an authoritarian. But constantly we see that the Constitution, the guardrails of the Constitution hold. He can't go beyond the Constitution. They say he wants to be a dictator. He constantly has to go to the Supreme Court to make sure that what he's about to do is the right thing. That doesn't look like a dictator. So yeah, the Constitution is such an amazing thing. You know, maybe during another live stream, we'll talk about, you know, why I think the Constitution can't work in any other country but the United States. You know, because even if we lifted the Constitution and we took it to another country and said, okay, here's what the United States is using, you guys use the same thing, it would fail on arrival. Maybe later we'll talk about it, because it is unique to the people of the United States. Patricia says, hang on, did I complete that one? Okay, the American citizens own America. That is why we have a Second Amendment in the Bill of Rights. Yes. All right. And then Patricia says, yep, the Second Amendment keeps the people first. Guys, I'm having chills. I'm enjoying this live stream, but I'm having chills just talking about the Constitution. Okay. So in this video we just watched, because we haven't gotten to closing on the video, Mark Kelly just didn't mention war crimes once. Double standards that the Democrat Party continues to show are astounding, you know, and you continue to see it again and again and again. This isn't about them being morally outraged. This isn't about the Democrat Party being this, you know, great proponent of fairness across the world. It's all about getting Trump. It's all about politics. All right. And whenever you do that, you put the lives of your servicemen, the lives of Americans over your politics. You're good. But whenever you put your politics over the lives of Americans, in my books, you are evil. Okay. Now, let's look at how someone showed up on CNN. We've had several people on CNN. We've watched these videos, but here's Congressman Carlos Gimenez, and he wasn't having any of CNN's narrative. This is a good one to watch, and let me know what you think.
I'm confident that the admiral thought he was carrying out his mission,
but why is
which
it
is
questionable? Why is it questionable to order a strike to kill individuals who are survivors?
These are terrorists. Okay, these are absolute terrorists.
But they're wounded.
I didn't see this kind of scrutiny when the Obama administration was launching drone strikes against terrorist organizations in the Middle East. I mean, that happened all the time. Okay, and so, you know, I didn't see this kind of scrutiny about the survivors, et cetera. These are terrorists. They're bringing poison into the United States. They have killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. And we need to understand that. Killed far more Americans than Al-Qaeda or Osama bin Laden ever did. And so I have no problem with the kinetic strikes that are happening in the Caribbean, killing and destroying the drugs that are killing American citizens and have been killing American citizens.
Well, that's how it's done. All right. That's how it's done. And we already know that fentanyl so far has killed more Americans than Al-Qaeda did. So with the Air Force veteran claiming that running missions in Iraq and doing strikes on terrorists isn't the same thing as taking out narco-terrorists who have essentially killed over 200,000 Americans, they're not the same thing. Making the lives of 200,000 Americans a trifle. Gosh, I'll break out the E word again. They're evil. I just can't stop. It doesn't make any sense. You can't reach any conclusion but that. You can't. Intergalactic Angler says, I'm blonde-haired and blue-eyed man. I'm a blonde-haired and blue-eyed man. I used to be a Democrat because I thought inclusion was important. They poisoned it and poison everything they try to do. Now I'm dark MAGA and I support Israel too. Yeah, whenever you see the hypocrisy, you see how they see American people. The American people are an inconvenience to these guys. Senator John Kerry made a statement. He made a statement during a panel somewhere, and he said the thing standing in between them and doing some of the things that they really feel are good for the American people is the First Amendment. And I'm like, how can a senator say something like that? It's like a Christian stepping out and saying, you know what? There are lots of things that we believe will be helpful for the church, but that pesky 10th commandment or that pesky 4th commandment keeps standing in our way. If we could figure out a way to move away from the 4th commandment, we'll be able to do some great things. All right. The Constitution, in my opinion, is it's a contract that everyone in Congress should revere. If anyone speaks against the Constitution, it should disqualify them from being in Congress. That is my take. Guys, I'm just a casual bystander. I'm not an American, so I'm just giving my thoughts. So let me know if you think I'm making sense. You swear an oath to the flag, to the Republic, to the Constitution. You don't begin to toy with the thing that is the basis for your freedom and the target of your allegiance. Patricia says, thank you, Intergalactic Angler. And Intergalactic Angler, yes, thank you. Guys, so the chat has been very, very active. This has been the most active live stream I've had for the nighttime session. I want to keep this going, and I want to have this going on again and again, but I need your help. And part of what I need is, I need you guys to let me know if you have stories that you think we should talk about. All right, I can do the initial introduction and commentaries, and then when it's time for us to kind of give our reactions to the stories and our thoughts, we do what we did tonight and just have an engagement in the chat where we talk about our thoughts on the story. If you have a story that you think that we should talk about for that day, whether it's the afternoon belt that we have at noon Eastern, or the evening belt like we have at 9 p.m. Eastern, like we're doing now, I would love for you to please consider sending us ideas to crossroadsirl@gmail.com. It's right there on the screen. Send us an email to that. I'm going to just make my face big on the screen. Just a second. I want to make my face big on the screen. All right. So you can see the email address out there. So I need you guys to help out with this because I believe that having these conversations are great for rounding out some of the rough edges in our thoughts. And there are other people who are watching this live stream who are really enjoying this and learning from it. And possibly someone might watch this before the midterms. And it would really be helpful for them to decide on whether they want to vote red or blue. And it would be great for them to hear from you guys and actually come to a conclusion. You have all of these veterans out there supporting the insanity that the Democrats are orchestrating against President Trump. Having Patricia on this live stream and chatting, all right, and giving her perspective as a veteran. I don't know if I have any other veteran on the live stream, but either like just having the voice of people who actually wore the uniform and went into combat and understand what is at stake, you know, is golden and is great because when you have these charlatans appearing on CNN, on TDSBC, lying about what the chain of command looks like, what the commander-in-chief has done or hasn't done, it's infuriating to not have someone who has a counter narrative, who actually has the experience and can tell the truth. It's frustrating not to be able to do that, but I'm grateful that we had Patricia here on the live stream. And like I said, I don't know if I have anyone else here who is a veteran, but if you are and you're on the live stream, thank you for your service. It's a pleasure having you here. And I would love to have you guys continue to contribute to the live streams the way we did tonight. All right. Patricia says, I do smile, and I have been doing so during this live stream. I'm glad that you enjoyed this live stream. I'm glad. I've always been concerned that covering the news can be a dark thing where you're just listening to, like, if this was just me talking about these reports from CNN, all right, Patricia, Intergalactic Wrangler, everyone watching, if you guys were not active in the chat and I was left by myself to talk about these things, I would be seething and I'll be raving by now. Because all of the insanity that you see on the news, sometimes you're like, am I the only one seeing this craziness? But when you're talking with people and you're seeing things the same way, you're like, wow, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. And it kind of puts a smile on your face, like you're relieved. You're not crazy. And it also helps when you have a community. You have a community and it kind of lightens the load. And I think that's why we all have a smile on our face. And I'm not raving as much as I would have if you guys were not here. I smile every time someone starts questioning things and using common sense to find the answers. Thank you. That is high praise. Thank you so much, Patricia. I do chat a lot. Patricia, I would say that you guys are an answered prayer. There are live streams that I've had, and I'm sure you've watched some of the older live streams where I'm asking people to chat and no one is chatting. All right. I'm like begging, please chat, please. I need someone to chat. But you guys, have made this such a joy. Thank you so much for chatting. And I hope that you guys will be able to come back again and again and again. You guys made this live stream rich with your perspectives and with your comments. All right. And I mean it. I mean it. Intergalactic Angler says, Russia took many cities back this week and no mainstream media is covering it. It's been redacted. And Megyn Kelly taught me a lot. Yeah. Megyn Kelly, I also follow her content. I follow a lot of people's content, but because of several reasons, like you can't, there are some creators where I feel guarded showing their content because I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing by doing it, but I can show you CNN, Fox News, TDSBC. The regular news outlets seem to be quite free with you showing their content, so I can do that. But there are some great creators, and Megyn Kelly does some crazy research. She does some crazy research. Her commentary is in depth, especially when it comes to the legal cases that are being discussed. She literally reads through the paperwork because she's a lawyer, and she can go through the paperwork and say, here is what people don't want you to see. And that's amazing to watch her do that. So yeah, Megyn Kelly is awesome. Intergalactic Angler says, you're allowed to love the United States and not like all the politicians. God bless America. Thank you for your service. Always prepare. Yeah, thank you for your service. And I don't know. I've been accused of wanting to be accepted by the white people. I mean, people go into my comment section and say crazy stuff all the time, but all I want is for things to work the way they're supposed to. And when I see people breaking a country that I love, do you know what, guys? I've never been to the United States. I've never been there. But I've always loved the United States because of what it represents and how good people who live in that country have been to my family. So when I see people pooping on the United States, I get upset. I do. Patricia says, thank you for sharing your opinions. Asking questions is the best step to finding the truth. Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes we may not like the answers, but you have the answer. And if you have the right answer, you can make great decisions and have a great life and build a great country. So yeah, I agree. Patricia says, you're not alone. You're not crazy. And never stop believing your own eyes. Yes. Oh my goodness. We will be talking about this, as we go along in future live streams. You're like looking at stuff and you're like, what am I seeing? And everyone is saying, no, don't believe your lying eyes. Look at the narrative. This is what you should be believing. If you say anything else, you're a bigot. Like, excuse me, how did I go from being confused to becoming a bigot? Patricia, and I was going to apologize for taking over your chat. Nah, I want everybody to take over the chat. Okay, so Patricia, if you've watched the intro, I usually play at the end of the live streams. That was meant to be at the beginning, but I decided to play it at the end. This live stream is essentially for us to talk. It is meant to be an exchange of ideas. I get to present the news of the live stream, a couple of stories, and then while I'm presenting the stories, you talk back. That's the plan. If I didn't want you to talk back, I could have just recorded the video, uploaded it, and then possibly try to respond to the chat afterwards. But it's difficult to do. Plus, there's an energy that we feel when we know that we're talking to each other. All right. I'm not talking at you with a recorded video. I'm talking to you and you're talking back to me. And there's something that happens. There's an energy that's generated when we're doing that. So I really feel like that's the spirit of this live stream. And I'm hoping that we're able to make something good come out of it. So thank you. Don't apologize, please. Take over the chat anytime. Usually it's Canary King who takes over the chat, but Canary King is a father, and usually around this time he has to put his kids to bed. So he's off and on sometimes, and I'm glad to have you in the chat. You know what? After reading a ton of your comments from the last 2 live streams, and I responded and I reached out to you and, tried to kind of, I was this close, Patricia, this close to saying, please come on the live stream. I was very close to saying, please, Patricia, could you join the live stream tonight? I really love to have this energy during the live stream. And thank you for being here, Patricia. I hope you enjoyed it so much that every time you see that I'm live, you come on board, and then we just kind of break these stories down. All right. I hope you do consider doing that. Patricia says, David Hansen is one person that I follow, and he's a Democrat, one of the few ones left who love America. All right, I'm going to follow him too. I've always said it's not about Democrat or Republican. It's about people who follow common sense policies, who are true to the Constitution, and who aren't globalists. The United States is a sovereign country. It is the one last bastion of democracy and freedom in the world. Anyone who looks the wrong way at the United States and is in office should not be trusted. You should trust anyone who is actually doing the right thing by the people. John Fetterman has impressed me over the last few months. So I will add David Hansen to that roller deck. Okay. Patricia says, talking back worked tonight. Laugh out loud. Yeah, it did. Charlie Kirk said, when conversation stops, the violence begins. I have tried to also make this platform kind of open to people who aren't conservatives or Republicans as well. I want us to be able to disagree and still be friends. I believe it's possible. I don't know if I'm being naive, but I believe it is possible. So I'm hoping that over time, we have people who don't vote Republican or MAGA. They're Democrats. They may vote Democrats for the rest of their lives, but they're willing to have common sense conversations. And they're willing to say, yeah, these policies that my party has brought on are insane. But I still believe that some of the anchor points of the Democrat policies are important for the American people. Yeah, you can, but where they begin to lose us is where they begin to call us names and try to make people who love us hate us. Intergalactic Wrangler says Skynet is genius. Look into Genesis. I don't get the reference. I don't get the reference. I know Skynet. I know about Skynet, Terminator, everything. I'm trying to figure out where. Is that a reference to a quote from the movie? I'm not sure. Patricia says, I really enjoyed the interaction tonight. By the way, I am a Republican, but first and foremost, I am an American, and that is the way it's supposed to be. You're first and foremost an American before you are Democrat, Republican, MAGA, independent, libertarian. Whatever you are first of all American. And once the party that you vote begins to do things that are anti-American, you need to call them to order. And if they refuse to be called to order, then you leave the party. It's really as simple as that. Patricia says, Fetterman is being attacked by the Democrats. Yeah, they're thinking of primarying him because of his outspoken comments on the shutdown and a few other crazy policies, and the fact that he refuses to attack the Trump administration like everyone else is. He says you can't keep calling people racist and Nazis. That's not the way it works. And I have loved ones who are Republican and MAGA, and I don't hate them. So what are people talking about? So he's broken ranks, and they want to punish him for it. Patricia says, America was successful having a two-party system. I still believe we need that to keep a balance. I believe so too. And to be honest, I have this strange thing that I've said before. We need the Democrats. It's a strange thing to say, owing to the fact that I don't like the current Democrat leadership and the way they are trying to push the country, but you need an opposition to keep the other party in check. But I've also said You don't make up lies because you're trying to be an opposition party. That is insane. Work with policy. Work with policy. If there's a policy that they're acting out that is bad for the American people, call it out. Don't make up lies like what they've been trying to do over the last few days. Illegal orders. Name one illegal order that Trump has issued. They can't tell you anything. They can't tell you anything. You know, it's infuriating to watch, and I've said that good Democrats everywhere need to call out their party. I don't know if it will work, but they need to stop this insanity, because there are people who literally believe that what they're saying is right, that Trump is a racist, he's about to destroy the country, he wants to rip apart the Constitution and be a president for life. And I'm like, I don't believe that, and I haven't seen anything to indicate that. And they say, well, it's true anyway. So it's crazy. Yeah, so we need the two-party system to keep a balance. Intergalactic Wrangler says, hatred stirs up strife, love conquers all offenses. Proverbs 10:12. Please feel free to show scriptures here. All right? Show scriptures here, feel free. I think Democrats or Republicans, we are all Americans and should be united. I agree. And that's why when Hakeem Jeffries takes the side of narco-terrorists being blown out of the water by the military, these guys are bringing weapons of mass destruction. Look, I dare say that if Hakeem Jeffries and his ilk were around during the Second World War, that Hitler would have won. Yeah, if they were all here for the Second World War, they would essentially have rolled over, played dead, and said, Hitler, come, it's not politically correct for us to fight you. Because they're essentially cowards and turncoats. When people are coming into your country to kill your citizens, you shouldn't be questioning the activities of the military to protect American citizens. Intergalactic Wrangler says, Skynet is from Terminator. Yeah, they have a new thing that's real. It's called Genesis. Really? Genesis. Sure, it's not Gemini. There's Google, Gemini. Now, is Genesis owned by the government? Let me know. Okay, Patricia says AI can be dangerous. Well, it can if it's allowed to do some of the things that they think it can do so far. Yeah, but I hope they put in some policies to block some of the insanity that could happen if AI is allowed to take over a bunch of stuff. Patricia says the Republican Party called out Nixon and did not go well for him. They called out Nixon and didn't go well for him. The Republican, Nixon was Republican, and I guess I'm right. Nixon was Republican, so the Republican Party called him out. It didn't go well for him. But I also heard that he was also one of the most popular presidents voted into office. So there are statements being made that that he was essentially destroyed and discredited because of that. He was about to do certain things that was dangerous for the establishment, and they got rid of him. Intergalactic Wrangler says, based on a November 24, 2025 executive order, the U.S. government is launching a national initiative called the Genesis Mission. I did not hear about that. You know, I've been focused on all of the other craziness that some of these other things have been slipping through the cracks. All right, I'm going to depend on you guys. If you feel up to it, I'm going to depend on you guys to actually bring up some of these things that slip through the cracks. I've said it several times on my live streams, that many times I feel like all of the news that is generating outrage is designed to take our eyes away from certain things that we should be questioning. And this is something that should be questioned. It's led by the Department of Energy. This project aims to use artificial intelligence to accelerate scientific research and technological innovation with goals comparable to the Manhattan Project and Apollo program in scale and ambition. I don't doubt it. President Trump has been laying out some very bold statements. But then again, I don't know how I missed this. A lot has been happening though. But this is important. It's important. Thank you, Intergalactic Wrangler, for this. I'm going to kind of I'm going to file this away, and I'm going to be looking for patterns along this line. I am. Patricia says, I hope they do not replicate the Manhattan Project. We do not need any more mass destructive weapons on this planet. Patricia also says, Republicans told him to resign or they would impeach him. Okay, yeah. The Republicans have been a very strange party. It's supposed to show a lot of leaning towards conservative ideology and practices, but it almost seems to self-destruct at the worst times. Always seems to self-destruct at the worst times. I don't know, I'm just thinking, I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like with Trump coming in, he upset the apple cart. The Rhino Republicans essentially didn't like him because he wasn't there to play that game. And that's why a lot of them pushed back against him. And Mike Pence is one of those guys. For him to essentially turn against President Trump when he needed him the most, and then has gone on a personal, it's like he's on a mission to make sure that he makes Trump look bad he's like the ultimate Trump card, pun intended. It's like every single time they're like, people hate Trump. Oh, and look at his last vice president. That shows how evil Trump is. He's the worst tool of the Democrat Party to kind of try to discredit President Trump's integrity and personality. Intergalactic Wrangler says, crazy scary 2030 is going to be a hoot. Well, 2030 is going to be it's how many years from now? It's 5 years. Okay, yeah, it's about 5 years from now. I thought the Trump years were going to be fun. I guess there's more for us to look forward to. Patricia says Watergate was the reason for Nixon's fall. Yeah, and I've been hearing a lot that it was all staged by the CIA, and that the Woodward and Bernstein facade was actually a CIA op. I've heard so many things over the last few months, and I'm like, my goodness, so much has happened within the United States. Patricia says, sometimes the Republicans are too conservative. Sometimes they need to stand up for what they believe. I believe that when something goes wrong, I like the quality of the Republican Party where they essentially call out anything wrong being done within the party. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with holding party members accountable. I wish Democrats would do that. But you know what? Because Democrats don't do that, it's easy to call them out on their hypocrisy. But for Republicans, like you said, sometimes they go too far. All right? They go too far. Patricia says, Trump is not a politician. He has never been. He has not changed a bit since the 80s. Patricia, did you watch the Trump video? My very popular Trump video. All right. One of the things that kept coming up when people left a comment was he has not changed. He's been saying the same thing since 1980. You know, he hasn't changed. And some other people who hate Trump are like, the fact that he hasn't changed means he's retarded. Like, no, he's been saying this. He's had the same policy decisions, policy positions for 40 years. Meanwhile, Democrats change policies like they change underwear. So you need someone who is constant and consistent to be able to ensure that your country survives. Let's see. Patricia says, just remember the lesson of Atlantis. They destroy themselves with technology. History teaches a lot of common sense. It does. And we should do well to learn from history. All right, guys. I guess we can call it a night. It has been amazing. Yeah, the Oprah interview. I watched that interview and I tried to do a video reacting to that interview, and the Oprah Winfrey Company essentially told YouTube that I was doing something wrong. So I decided to avoid putting out that video. Yeah, it was interesting to watch. All right. He interviewed him in the 80s. He said everything then. Yeah, he hasn't changed his position. It's essentially common sense positions. And whenever Trump speaks, he speaks like a businessman. All right. He speaks like a businessman. And it's like, how is this so hard for anyone to understand? And those of us who are honest and are looking at it are like, yes, exactly why. And that's why we support him. You know, he said everything then that he's saying now, and they want to shut him down. They don't want this guy to ruin everything. Intergalactic Angler is in support. You know, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. We are having fun, so much fun. And some people will say that too much of a good thing can be bad. I've had so much fun doing this live stream. I've had live streams where the chat has been polarizing. It's more like, you know, we hate you, you know, oh no, don't hate him, we hate you. You know, we've had those kinds of shows. And those shows, you know, they're okay. But it's great to be able to have conversations like we've had today. Today, possibly for me, is the best live stream I've had ever, because of the variety of comments, ideas, you know, and some of the things that we've been able to cover tonight. Again, if you've watched so far and you enjoy what you've seen, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing this video. Support the channel. Consider supporting the channel by coming back again and again to watch. Consider supporting us by chatting and leaving a comment in the comment section or during the show. Send us suggestions to the email address crossroadsirl@gmail.com if there are things that you think we should cover for the next live stream that you think will be helpful. Feel free to send us your thoughts, and if you have suggestions, please feel free to send them as well. Intergalactic Angler is checking out for the night. Stay safe, everyone. Yep. So thank you for being here, Intergalactic Wrangler. It was a pleasure having you. Patricia Kenerikin was in the chat, and then he had to go. Yeah, so let's see. We'll talk about aliens at some point. Area 51. Need a show on Area 51. I can tell you some things about that, Patricia. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. I have thoughts. You have thoughts. You know, I've listened to shows about that, and there's a lot to unpack. There are things happening in the world that you can't unsee once you start seeing them, and there are tons of videos. So Patricia, we can actually talk about stuff like that. Maybe we can create a segment where we do that and actually unpack some of these things. It is important because there are actually things that are happening in the world that are paranormal. They are. Okay, they are. And it's not being kooky to acknowledge that they're actually happening. Intergalactic Angler says, I have had 2 encounters. Okay, I'm looking forward to having a conversation about these 2 encounters. Let's do this, okay? Send me an email. Let's start talking about when we can actually have a show that focuses on that. We're going to talk about that. We'll find some of the congressional hearings on extraterrestrial life and everything else that came up, even during the election cycle last year. There were things that came up then, and it was quite interesting, and the timing that they came up, but we can talk about them. So send an email here and let's start planning having a conversation. Canary King and I have said that there are other conversations we want to have, and it would be great to be able to have those conversations with you. So let me know through the email address. Just send an email and let's have a conversation there. But again, also send ideas for news stories for the day, and we can also collaborate on that to actually provide you with the value that would help the channel be healthier and well-rounded. Guys, you guys have made my evening. Hanging out with you guys is such a great thing, and I've enjoyed this live stream thoroughly. I hope you guys will be back tomorrow, tomorrow in the afternoon, noon Eastern, or tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. Eastern. I would love to have this same energy, and if it is possible, dialed up some more. It'd be great to just be able to discuss the news, share our ideas, and just make each other smile like we have tonight. Now, thank you for being here, and let's just do a roll call. Patricia, thank you for being here. Intergalactic Wrangler, thank you for being here. Canary King, thank you for ducking in and saying hi, but I know that there's housekeeping to be done and stuff, so thank you for just ducking in and letting me know that you are here. Guys, you guys have made the show. The show is essentially made by you. I've always said it, and I believe it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making the show amazing. And I hope that you guys will be back tonight. Thank you for your insight and time too. Patricia, you too. God bless you and keep up these videos and live streams. They are valuable beyond words. Thank you so much, Patricia. I'm looking forward to future shows where we're able to have this kind of exchange and actually, be able to produce more experiences like this, even better. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Good night. I'll see you tomorrow. And until next time, God bless you. Bye.